You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? You know, Don Staley, boy, it never stops, does it? Boy, these NCAA college coaches, they're chomping at the bit. They want to be in the NBA, but Don Staley, and South Carolina and the allegiance of South Carolina fans, I didn't even think about this until I listened. And I heard that there was an interview, but then I listened to it, and Don Staley's like, wait a minute. No, if Caitlin Clark would have played this way, then it would have been something different. I don't necessarily see it like that. I see it more or less as with Don Staley, she's got a mind of her own, what she wants to do and what she likes to do. But take a listen. It's shocking to me. I don't even know why you'd go here. But nevertheless, here we go. Because she's a great coach, and there's no doubt.
About women's basketball, the run you at South Carolina had to the national championship, a perfect season. Obviously, Caitlin Clark. And there was so much conversation on, should Caitlin be on the U.S. women's national team? You were part of the selection group. Give me your read on that now that we've got a little bit of time and we can get into some clear air to see what happened.
Right. When as a committee member, you're charged with putting together best team of players, the best talent. Caitlin is just a rookie in the WNBA. Wasn't playing bad, but wasn't playing like she's playing now. If we had to do it all over again.
So you're listening to Don, like Caitlin was a rookie of the league, wasn't playing bad, wasn't playing like she is now. But, the thing about it is, as you look at that, Don and Caitlin got a little history, but I'll let you listen to this because she's the one, and it's the old regime. All the ladies have played together. They came into WNBA together, and they're going to stick together. So this is just Don expressing, you know what, we've got a lot of fraternity here in the WNBA, and we're not going to change for anybody. And that's just the way it is.
She's playing. She would be in really high consideration of making the team because she is playing head and shoulders above a lot of people, shooting the ball extremely well. I mean, she is an elite passer. She's just got a great basketball IQ, and she's a little more seasoned in the pro game.
In a couple of months.
Yeah, in a couple of months than she was 2 months ago.
That's great.
Okay, folks, you know what? And I said, I didn't picture this. I didn't see it. I didn't expect, really Don to go here. But here's what concerns me about Don. And Don is a great coach. Coaches South Carolina, no doubt about it. And when you look at South Carolina, they lost, about 3 games in the last 3 years. One of them was to Caitlin Clark. So I'm sitting here, and I'm trying to understand Don and what she's saying and how she's saying it, that, she's a little bit more seasoned. Well, you know what? I have a hard time buying that because you already know what Caitlin Clark can do. You already have seen Caitlin Clark play, and this is no surprise to you. So when it comes to me and I think about what we're talking about, I'm like, folks, come on, let's just be honest with one another and say, Don, you know what? You guys didn't want her on there. Don't try to backtrack it and say, well, if she'd have been playing this way, if she'd have been playing that way, because, Don, let me just tell you guys something. Don Staley and Caitlin Clark, it's not new, okay? They've seen it before. You've seen it. And everybody, the fans have seen it. And if you look at Caitlin Clark, I mean, Don's had a first-class look, okay? 100%, folks, I'm going to tell you, Don Staley has had a first-class look at Caitlin Clark, okay, because they beat South Carolina. So it's impossible for you to come back later and say she's not playing. Okay, South Carolina's had 3 losses in the last 3 years, 4 years? Okay, but one of them was Caitlin Clark. And you know what happened in that game, folks? Caitlin Clark winning that game, dust off South Carolina, and it burns. It hates. It's not something new. So I'm not buying, that Don Staley's going, well, we didn't know. Folks, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by fanatics. But I'm not buying anything Don Staley had. When you had a first-hand look, at Caitlin Clark, you've lost 3 games in the last 4 years, or 3 years, however it pencils out. One of those losses for Caitlin Clark, she dusted you off and took it down. So you had a first-hand look from the bench to see everything that Caitlin Clark could do. Then when she went into pros, it was all kind of I don't even want to call it a sabotage. I think, how about I do this? How about I just say it was all a miscommunication of what Caitlin Clark's capabilities were. Was she able to handle the one spot? Was she able to make the pass? Was she able to run a 2-man game? Could she come off pins, down screens, curls, and hit the shot? Understanding, was she able to block shots? Was she able to get rebounds? Was she able to get a steal? And most of all, was she able to get assists? And I don't care. We can go back 100 years in basketball. 100 years. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by fanatics. All things are possible to those who believe. We can go 100 times, and you can get a sledgehammer, an axe, and a bullhorn. You'll never convince me that rebounds are greater than assists. It's not even close. I get 26 assists. Folks, I have potentiality of 70 points, okay, versus if I get 26 rebounds, now we got to go get the points, okay? That's why it doesn't make any sense, okay? And if you get somebody, Caitlin Clark, to come back in this league, I'll tell you what, you may see the first 20-20. Okay, what does that mean? 20 points, 20 assists. The game is there. Her game is that good. But here's the deal, and here's what I know about these guys, because I know about these coaches, and I tell you, when I work for the organizations, I look at the organization, I look at the structure, I look at the business model, and I look at what they have going on. Here's what's happening here. You got these college coaches. You get the money right, they chomping at the bit. I'm telling you, they chomping at the bit for the WNBA. Especially Don Staley is chomping at the bit because she's part of the WNBA fraternity, okay? And she was handling her business, okay? And she knows how hard as a guard. She was a point guard. So you can't really get these guys coming in here trying to make these things up. They're just part of the old regime. And one of the things, I call them the old regime, and let me tell you what that means, folks. The old regime is who held it together, thick and thin. Attendance was down. Games were not being great. A lot of things happened, but they kept marching forward in the trenches. And what the older regime is saying, look, that Caitlin Clark would not have this opportunity if it weren't for the old regime. And the old regime is those who played. They didn't play for a lot of money. They really played for the love of the game, okay? And it's just like the NBA players. You get Charles Barkley, Shaquille, you get Kenny Smith. You get those guys on the tube. They are sitting there in shock how a ball player can be making $60 million a year when they all know they would have been high $45, $55, $60 million players. Okay, so you got another league started, WNBA. I'm going to call that first another league because it was in existence for 28 years, and guess what? It changed itself around. And every time everybody you hear that got beat, spanked, whipped by Caitlin Clark, you look at Gino, they're going to have some little funky attitude. They're going to say something like what we call real slick. Okay, we're not calling them slick, but they think they're being slick. Okay, to say, well, Caitlin Clark this, Caitlin Clark that. The bottom line is she dusted you off too, Gino. And, Gino, I'm telling you, these guys, these college coaches, I'm going to lay it out to you. They got enough hardware on the shelves. They've been in the college game, and there's nothing like for a coach. I will tell you this as clear as day, that gets the opportunity to do something new. Okay, they've sat in those collegiate offices, and they know what it's like. They know what the game is like, and they know how the game is played, but it doesn't matter. They still want a part of it, and that's just how it works. I mean, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, and we could run and run and run with this for the rest of the week, but my opinion, okay, like I said, it's my opinion. Okay, but if it turns to truth, I'm giving you the facts before it happened. And, some of these coaches, college coaches, man, they're chomping at the bit to get just a little taste of the WNBA. They don't want a full cup. They just want, because they've been coaching for a long time. But just to get a little taste, because here's the deal, let's be honest. I mean, you're looking at all their players. You're looking at Iowa players. Okay, I mean, let's just be honest. Gino, how many Gino players do you got in the WNBA? I mean, these guys know they can have a super team tomorrow because all their players are coming on back. And, Don Staley, goodness gracious, how many players does Don Staley have in the WNBA? It's astronomical. Okay, but at the end of the day, they all want a piece. They all are chomping. You know why? Because they're getting something new. You're getting something where you're dealing with not college. You're just dealing with the game of basketball. Now, in college, you still got to manage. You got to be a mentor. You got to make sure kids are in class. You got to make sure you're doing their work. It's not that way in the pros. In the pros, you just coach, okay? And the cream's going to rise to the top. Don Staley is the cream, okay? Let's be honest. She's a cream. Okay, South Carolina basketball, man, we salute you. You guys are just standing there, man. If I had a chance and, I was going against Don Staley, I'd have to recruit just matchups. You know why I recruit matchups when you play Don Staley? Because it doesn't matter how great the player is. Can they match up? Can they match up with the 5 she puts on the court? Plus, she's dealing with all the All-Americans. So, and the way the pendulum swings is this, folks. Whoever wins the national championship gets All-Americans, okay? When Gino ran it for a while, Gino never even had to recruit. All the All-Americans were coming his way. Okay, he's still slick at it. He's good at it. It's the way it goes. And Lisa Brewer just took it to the top of the mountain. She did what she has to do. I think she has a direct, affectionate love for Caitlin Clark as a daughter, okay? And when it comes to her daughter and what's happening with my daughter and the Indiana Fever, whether it's Herb, whether it's the president of the Fever, the sons, the family, I mean, none of these coaches are going to let their daughters, okay, go into the WNBA, and if things aren't right, they're not going to speak about it. That's just who they are. And these guys have earned that right. There's 100%. They've earned that right. And you just got to kind of go along with it and say, well, since they earn it, you know, because nobody can tell Lisa Bluter she can't coach in the WNBA. Okay, and she retired, but there's nobody that can tell me Lisa Bluter can't coach in the WNBA. Okay, there's nobody can tell me Gino can't coach in the WNBA. I mean, the guy's a full-on competitor. You know, I mean, he's a full-on competitor. And when you get full-on competitors and you're looking at over half of your kids who are playing in the WNBA played for you, okay, that you could just run your college system. And we don't need to talk about Don Staley again because Don's got all the players in the WNBA. I mean, let's be honest. But when it comes to what they believe and how they're going to believe it, I will tell you this. They are chomping at the bit, okay? This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We're powered up by Fanatics. And, you know, guys, I didn't bring this story. I didn't break the story. The story was just Don Staley, okay, coming up with an idea, okay, that she pulled out of the air. Okay, Don, I got to give it credit. You're good. You're good at just putting it out there and say, well, you know what? Yeah, Caitlin Clark wasn't playing this way as a rookie. Caitlin Clark wasn't doing these things. Caitlin Clark wasn't doing this or that. Okay, when Caitlin Clark spanked South Carolina, lit you up for 41 points, you need more that you need to see than the 41 points Iowa dropped on South Carolina. Come on, folks. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Okay, we got to cut through the chase. And for the fans, like I said, we've been doing reviews. We're going to keep that going because we love you, because I love when you speak, and it keeps me sharp. You know what? And the other fans I like the LSU basketball fans. I salute you guys because you guys stand tall for LSU basketball. South Carolina does as well. And the WNBA, really, this is just a trickle over or a trickle down from college basketball, okay, because you got all these fans, but you got a different demographic. What you got is you got fans 50-plus years old who are now watching basketball. And you also got grandmothers and grandfathers who are watching the game, okay, with their grandkids. So it's a whole new regime. It's a whole new thing going on. But I can always tell you, folks, when it comes to these college coaches, I'm going to keep it 100% with you. They love the game. They believe that they can get it done. They're not afraid. Each one of them is fearless, okay? And if the money gets right and everything lines up, they will coach in the WNBA one day. I'm going to tell you, and especially Staley, that's a former player, okay? So let's not get it confused. This is normal stuff, but it's the way things shake out. Now, when you drop that brand new TV contract, folks, and others going to pay a petty back on that. And when he comes in here, you know, as I talked to you earlier about different leagues, different things that go on, folks, this is just the way corporate business works. And like I said, without it, it wouldn't be where the game is today. The game can rise another 50%, but you got to have competition. You have to have parity and competition. The reason I say that is the NFL is the highest shield and the highest brand. Okay, it's a no-tolerance league. The players are under strict, okay, condition, okay, and they believe in conduct detrimental, okay, to void a contract. Okay, so when you look at that and you look at America and you look how they have it on Sunday and what they do, they run the league accordingly, okay, and everybody has a duty and responsibility to show up and go to work. Okay, and when you talk about the WNBA, they have a perfect ideal of how to do that. And, you know, I've always been a little disappointed or disruptive in the fact they always want to say that WNBA is losing money. Well, you know what? Okay, we might want to accept that, or the $50 million. How did you come up with the number $50 million when it costs the planes and the charters cost $50 million? So really, you're breaking even without the planes and the charters. Okay, but they did all that early in the season. Now, you know what? The accounting machine keeps breaking down. And if you own any type of accounting business or anything like that, let us know, because we want to get you over here and we want to make sure we get you, because I think the accounting machine has just ran out of gas. Okay, because the numbers are so high. When you're talking about increasing over 1,000% attendance from the last year, you got more subscription WNBA League Pass, you got more subscription with Prime, you got a brand new TV contract, you got affiliate stations coming your way, and eventually you're going to get the college coaches, the cream of the crop. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We believe it. We understand it. The game is still a game, and we're going to try to make it heads or tails. But I didn't create it. Don did. And Don, if you had a firsthand look, okay, at Clark dropping 41 points, how much more do you really need to see, Don? I mean, let's really be honest with ourselves. Clark, Iowa, beat South Carolina and dropped 41 points. Did a 40 burger on Don. And you're telling me she's not ready for the Olympic team? Nah. We ain't buying it. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. All things are possible to those who believe. And we're going to keep getting better and better, because we're going to take you higher and higher. And we're going to make sure we bring it to you the way you want it. And we're always going to hear from the fans, and we'll be broadcasting that a lot. And we like the WNBA fans to comment. So leave your comments, and we'll make them comments hit the air. And we're going to make sure that we get it all where everybody is sharing and working together, because at the end of the day, the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, powered up by Fanatics, is always for the fans. All things are possible to those who believe.